Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the material you bring us and really get into it, pulling out the key insights specifically for you.
And today, yeah, we're diving into something really fascinating, based entirely on the source material you wanted us to explore. That source is the book, Smart Cities, China's Model of Success, by Eduardo Moreno, L. We're going to focus on the early parts of the book, really looking at the foundations he discusses.
Exactly. The key technologies, the strategy behind it all, how it's funded, and, the challenges they faced early on as Moreno lays them out.
China's development has been so rapid urbanization, technology, it's really positioned them as a major player in rethinking what cities can be. And this deep dive is about understanding how Moreno describes the construction of that model right from the start.
Our mission here is to pull out those core nuggets from Moreno's writing in these foundational sections so you get a solid understanding quickly.
So yeah, get ready. We're talking technology interwoven into city life, the big picture strategy, the money side, and those initial roadblocks.
Okay, let's start with the foundation. How does Moreno frame China's basic approach to transforming its cities? What's the central idea there?
Well, he presents it as more than just adding tech. It's a fundamental um, reimagining of urban living. It involves thinking differently about data governance, and the stated goal, at least, is putting citizens at the center of this innovation.
And Moreno contrasts this pretty sharply with what he sees elsewhere, right? The scale and speed.
Absolutely. He points out that Western efforts often appear more fragmented, maybe slower, whereas in China you see this massive, rapid investment, for instance, in STEM education. He mentions specific universities.
Right. Tsinghua and Beijing universities, he flags them as becoming globally competitive, attracting talent, and really closing the gap with Western institutions very quickly.
Yeah, and Moreno connects that investment in people directly to the ability to build and deploy these complex smart city systems so fast, it creates a whole ecosystem.
Okay, so that's the human capital side. What about the actual technology? Moreno says it's woven into the very fabric of urban life. What tech are we talking about?
He gets specific there. We're talking about the Internet of Things, IoT sensors everywhere, collecting data constantly. Then artificial intelligence, AI, and machine learning, ML, to make sense of all that data, find patterns, make predictions.
Big data processing, obviously, to handle the sheer volume.
Exactly. And the critical network infrastructure, 5G mobile networks, providing the speed and capacity for all this connectivity.
And Moreno uses examples like Shenzhen and Hangzhou. He calls them living laboratories.
That's the term, yeah. Places where these technologies aren't just concepts, they're actively being applied to solve real city problems. They're testing grounds, basically, learning and adapting in incredibly dynamic environments.
And the ultimate goal behind integrating all this tech.
Moreno states it pretty clearly, making cities more efficient, more sustainable, and ultimately better places to live. The tech is foundational to how the city operates day to day.
So you've got the talent pool, you've got the cutting edge tech. But how do you steer such a colossal undertaking? Let's talk about the strategic vision Moreno describes.
Right, this brings us to governance. Moreno discusses China's centralized model. He notes its ability to coordinate rapid, sort of unified responses across different regions and sectors.
Which he contrasts with more decentralized models common in the West.
Yes, and he points out that this very centralization, while enabling speed and cohesion, also sparks debate, particularly around privacy and state control. Moreno acknowledges that tension right from the beginning. It's a key theme.
And this central vision isn't just talk, right? Moreno points to concrete national policies and those famous five-year plans.
Exactly. Like the 13th and 14th five-year plans he mentions. They set specific goals. Things like upgrading infrastructure, pushing for green development, improving public services, and really embedding ICT information and communication tech into city management.
And it's not just top-down command. He talks about pilot projects.
Crucial point. Pilot projects and demonstration zones, he cites, Hangzhou, Shenzhen, Xiong'an as examples. These are places to test new ideas, new technologies, new approaches before rolling them out more broadly. Learn what works, what doesn't.
Makes sense. Okay, strategy and tech are vital, but this scale requires massive investment. How does Moreno explain the funding? Where does the money come from?
He dedicates a good chunk to financing. Unsurprisingly, a lot comes from government central, and local governments allocate substantial funds. But, and this is key, it's not only public money. Moreno really highlights the importance of public-private partnerships, PPPs.
So bringing in private companies.
Precisely. Using PPPs to leverage private sector expertise, their technology, and crucially, their investment capital.
And this involves some big names. Moreno mentions companies like,
Yeah, he specifically points to the major roles played by tech giants like Alibaba, Huawei, and Tencent. Their involvement, often through these PPP structures, is what Moreno argues helps drive innovation and allows these projects to scale up so effectively. It connects public goals with private capabilities.
so it's a blend of public direction and private execution in a way.
And he also notes other financial tools like green bonds specifically aimed at funding sustainable projects, so a diverse funding approach.
Now, no project this ambitious goes perfectly smoothly, especially at the start. What early challenges does Moreno bring up in these sections?
He definitely covers the bumps in the road. Technically, a major one is just dealing with all the data, integrating huge volumes of data from disparate sources, ensuring it can all work together, interoperability.
That sounds complicated.
It is. Marino mentions issues like inconsistent data quality, different data formats used by various government departments and private companies. Getting it all to communicate is a huge task.
Okay, technical hurdles. What else?
Economic challenges, too. Just the sheer cost involved is enormous. And Marino touches on the challenge of making sure the benefits are shared widely, trying to avoid, making inequality worse, equitable distribution.
And then there's the issue that always comes up in these discussions, data security and privacy. How does Moreno handle that?
He delves right into it, that inherent tension between wanting to build this data-driven digital economy very quickly and the fundamental need to protect sensitive information.
The state control aspect comes in here too, right?
Exactly. The concerns about surveillance that naturally arise with such a centralized, data-intensive model. Moreno acknowledges these are serious ethical questions being debated. He mentions the need for countermeasures discussed within this context. Regulations, data encryption, access controls, ways to try and manage those risks.
Any other challenges mentioned early on?
He also briefly flags the digital divide, the risk that people without digital skills or access might get left behind, unable to fully benefit from or participate in the smart city.
Okay, one last key concept Moreno introduces early on is sector integration. What does he mean by that?
He presents this as a core feature of the model. It's about breaking down the traditional silos between different city sectors. So think energy, transportation, healthcare, public utilities. Instead of operating independently, the idea is to merge them, make them work together seamlessly.
And how is that achieved, according to Moreno?
Through the very technologies we've been discussing, the IoT, the AI, the big data analytics, that connectivity and data processing allows these different systems to interact and coordinate.
And the purpose of integrating everything.
The goal, as Moreno describes it, is optimizing how the city uses its resources, making service delivery much better for citizens, and generally improving urban quality of life by making the whole system smarter and more efficient.
Does he give examples in this part of the book?
Yes, even in these foundational sections, he talks about things like smart grids for better energy management, intelligent transport systems to ease traffic congestion, telemedicine and shared electronic health records improving healthcare access, and e-governance making public services easier to use, all enabled by that integrated tech platform. It's about creating an interconnected ecosystem.
Okay, let's try and pull the threads together from these initial sections of Moreno's book that we've covered. What are the main takeaways?
Well, first, there's that clear strategic national vision driving it all, a very deliberate top-down approach. Second, the incredibly deep integration of core technologies, IoT, AI, big data, 5G, right into the city's foundations. It's not an add-on.
And the funding, the mix of government money and those crucial public-private partnerships, especially with major tech firms.
Right. That blend is key to the scale and speed Moreno describes. And importantly, the acknowledgement of significant challenges, the technical integration issues, the economic questions, and especially the ongoing debate around data, privacy, and surveillance.
So this comprehensive model, as Moreno presents it early on, is China's ambitious answer to the huge pressures of urbanization, using technology and strategy as the main tools.
Yeah, and Moreno's analysis really gives you a detailed look into how this specific model was conceived and initiated.
All right, so for you, our listener, here's something to mull over based on our dive today. Moreno highlights this trade-off, doesn't he? The efficiency and speed gained from centralized control versus the very real concerns about privacy and state oversight that come with it.
That tension is definitely central.
So the question for you is, how does this fundamental tension shape the future possibilities for smart cities, not just the ones Moreno describes, but potentially everywhere? What kind of balance between efficiency, control, privacy, and transparency are you seeing being debated or maybe even built in the cities and communities you know?
It's a huge question, and Moreno's work really brings it into focus for this specific context. It's certainly given us a lot to think about today.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing this fascinating source material to the deep dive. We hope this exploration has provided some valuable context and insight for you. Keep exploring, keep questioning.